Hey everybody, it's Dark Guardsman. We're back with another video. Now I want to really quickly show off this. It's not really a lot to show, but I kind of want to talk about it more than anything else. Is that I'm going to be for the next few months actually working on a game project in between working on mods. Now this was planned way ahead of time. There always was the plan to actually spend this month and the following months. So let's actually pull this up real quick. So the month of June, July, August, and up to September actually developing a game in order to generate enough revenue to actually keep modding for free and keep making fun projects and keep doing stuff on YouTube and everything else without having to ask you guys for continuous donations and all kinds of other stuff going on. Now the game I'm working on is a 2D arcade action style game. I don't know if I really want to start calling it arcade. Doing a ton of research, I found out that arcade has a different kind of feel to it, but we are definitely making a top-down, two-dimensional kind of shooter action-y style game. I can actually show off a bit of the documentation here. I'm actually in the process of updating Unity. It's going to take a while, which is why we're doing this video, is it has to actually go through the process of installing the updated version, as I am a year behind on the actual updates. But the game itself, right now we're going to call it Margo Tank Game. It's just a code name for it because I don't have anything better to call it. I'm going to figure out the name at some later point. I may even run a poll somewhere on Reddit just asking for different name items and concepts. The game is going to be set on a different planet, so we're not using Earth, we're not going to use the Earth timeline or anything. This is just kind of to make our lives so much easier. So we'll have a planet that'll be colonized by humans, basically. So we're not going to say they're human per se, but they'll look human and for all intents and purposes. And they've colonized this planet, they've been on it for a while, and then something happens. And then now you're going to be doing that throughout the entire game. So something that's going to happen is going to be pretty easy to explain. You're going to be fighting robots, but I don't want to reveal the entire story, as there's going to be a ton to it. But we're going to have a variety of missions and everything else. I have recorded a few videos to talk about the missions that I'm going to be using in the future. So a lot of these missions are actually predefined with a lot of data on them. We've only got 2 of the missions actually sketched up at the moment, and they're not the greatest of things. So we got the mission 3. It's ugly. I will admit this, even after I went through here and did a bit of work on it. So the original design is done by my asset developer, Margo. He went through here and actually made this. He had a concept. I went through and did some editing to it. It's the reason why you see the lines and stuff going here. I wanted to kind of conceptually go ahead and look at what's going on, what we're doing with it. And this is definitely going to need a lot of work on this mission layout. The follow-up mission is a little better. This one got a little bit more detail, and as we go, each level design is going to get better and better. We're going to come back and revisit the previous level designs and clean them up and everything else. So here's an example of what mission 4 is going to be. I'm not going to actually explain a lot that's going on, simply because when you guys play the game, I don't want to spoil a lot for you. Although here in the future, I will show videos off of different levels, different gameplay mechanics, different back-end pieces. I'm definitely going to show off how I'm making this, as I don't really care to hide it. I'm not a game developer in the sense that I do this professionally, so anything I show off is going to be basically one-on-one stuff for people that have already done this. As the last game I worked on, I haven't worked on a real game in years, and the last one I worked on was I forget even the game engine it was in, but it was the Space Trucker game, which I regret working on because the guy not only was a douche, but he ended up actually doing a lot of things that are very unsavory, and you can actually find a video of him under Dirty Devs under the Sid Alpha's video set. So as I said, regretted working for him, but that's the last game I actually ended up working on. It was released and made a lot of money. So hopefully this game does well, and we're definitely going to be doing our best job to make this game as good as possible, as polished as possible. That way I redeem myself for the previous game I worked on. But you can see all this going on. So these levels will be top down. They're going to be pretty sizable, because the plan is that this itself is going to be like at least 20 screens across for how big the level is. So you're only going to see a small little window of the map, and you're going to move forward and everything else. This is kind of what you're looking at, is what the size is going to be. So imagine that little tank, and then if we go back to the mission here, this like canyon here would be at least as wide as the screen right here. Nothing's to scale, of course, and when we actually end up implementing this is going to be implemented via a tile map system. So there's a lot of changes that will be made. As we have to make all the tiles, we have to put all the tiles in the world, we have to do a lot of work, get a lot of things done, a lot of things put in there, a lot of things edited, a lot of logic going on. I think Unity just finished installing the latest version. If you guys ever use Unity and you want to do something cool, install hub, you can switch between all the different versions and stuff. It saves you tons of time, as I can sit here and work and actually still update to new versions. I can switch back and forth too, so if I have older projects, which I really am happy about, is I actually do have quite a few older projects. There's a lot of like really small projects that I've worked on in the past, so there's tons in here. And then if I even go out to, there's another folder out here. There's quite a few in here as well, and there's tons that I've got up on GitHub that I don't even have downloaded. But we'll close that real quick. So the game that I do currently have done, I just did this like early in the morning, spent about an hour doing it. It took a little longer than expected to actually get going because I tried to do what Unity told me to do and to use their physics engine. So Unity does have a physics engine for both 2D and 3D games. But basically it's the same engine for both. They just, the 2D one has been specially modified to work for 2D stuff. And how they want you to do this with the physics engine is they want you to apply force, that way you're actually moving the object as if it would be a real object. The only downside with doing this is you actually have to do a lot of work to get that to work, and for a 2D game like I'm working on, it's just not worth the time and effort. So I went through all the work of doing the physics thing just to go back to the classic way of doing it, which we do in a lot of video games, including Minecraft, is just to move the entity forward, which in this case is a tank. I don't have a turret on it because I still have to make one. And it's really simple, so I got a bit of mechanics here. So you hit the W key to accelerate, the S key to deaccelerate and move backwards. And you can tell it has a little bit of like slow down and speed up with it. Just really simple game mechanic, the same thing we use in Minecraft, which is just apply a little bit of momentum and slow down rather than instantaneously slow down. So we do track the movement and you see the slow down and stuff. And it works really good. So we get really smooth movement, it can go forward, backwards. It's pretty good for how short of line of code it is. I can actually show the code off here really quick because there's nothing impressive with it. So let me go ahead and open the tank. Oh, that's actually the assets there. Script, player movement. Really simple thing. And I actually did make this in Notepad++, which can tell you a lot. I didn't actually use an advanced editor for this. The whole game's going to be programmed this way. I'm going to be using Notepad++ more than likely. Until I get to a point where I get frustrated, I'm definitely going to be downloading something better. But really simple code. You've got movement input, you've got rotation. We actually invert the rotation just to be lazy, because technically I can do like I believe down on this one and it would reverse it for me. So we get the movement, we basically acceleration times that, so we actually have an acceleration variable, max speed variable, rotation speed variable. These are actually set really low. I actually have them set a lot higher actually over here just to make it feel smooth. The plan is for the game is there going to be a wide range of tanks, wide range of weapons, tons of other things going into this, so we're going to have to actually store a lot of this. I am going to eventually have to recode this because I want to use their new entity system that they have, which is basically a data-driven model. So you'll make a data class, then you'll make a system class, so you'll have a system that will control all the data. So this would be really advisable because then what I can do is I can make all the data for all the movement of the vehicle, then I can make a player controller, and then I can make a AI controller and have them use the same exact data to control the same vehicles, and will save me a lot of work and time in the future. But yeah, so movement, get the movement, we limit the movement, then we just translate. It's that simple. This is done every single frame. We could do this in fixed update, but it really doesn't matter because as long as you're doing the delta time, it does that movement and stuff. And you get a much smoother movement as well if you do it in the update per frame, so that way if you lag or slow down, you actually get a feeling that you're actually doing something. Let's see if it's running again. Of course, it decided to want to freeze up when I hit play. That's not Unity doing that, it's just the fact that I've got recording software running and like 2 installs running at the same time. But yeah, so you get really cool movement. You gotta imagine like when this game actually gets done, so you have this really smooth movement of you moving through levels, and you'll have buildings, and you'll have AIs you're fighting. Of course, the camera would actually end up panning everything as we go. What I might end up doing, I'm going to probably experiment with a few different cameras. The first camera design I actually do want to use is just to have the camera follow the player. I also want to try a rotating camera. I've seen a few games do this, especially really old arcade games do this, where the camera will rotate and follow. And the final one I'm thinking of is having the camera only pan when you get near the edge. That way it's got like a box here that will pan. That way you get this much better sense of movement, because you can see it feels like we're moving here. But if, say for example, I did this, which I dragged the main camera on top of the tank and then we hit play, you can't tell I'm actually moving because the camera is following me at all times. If this decides to, yeah, you could tell. One way we actually could tell is I can grab another tank and put it down here, delete this, and remove that, go to scene view, put that over there, go back to the game view, and you would see how this guy moves and slows down and rotates. So this would be an example of the rotating and moving with the player example, is that I'm the guy in the center right there and moving around, which this kind of has a nice feeling to it. The only reason I want to experiment with it is that from what I've actually seen with the rotating cameras, they do have side effects where you kind of get a sick feeling when you move around. Anyways, I'll leave you guys here as I gotta go take my dog to the vet, and I'll be back.